Hello, this is Erin with the Joy in Pens and Paper, and this is a 3 Inks Thursday video. This is number 25 in this series. Feel free to check out all the rest of them. In a 3 Inks video, I test out 3 different inks on 3 different papers using 3 different nib sizes to write with them in order to allow us the opportunity to really evaluate and experience what those inks are like. In today's video, we are going to explore 3 green inks. The 3 papers that I'm using, because I do sometimes change those, one is Life Bank Paper, the other is Cosmo Air Light, and the third is Tomoe River. Tomoe River will always be the constant because I have a Tomoe River notebook that I'm using. This notebook is getting a little on the chunky side, which is really lovely, but I will try to limit the crinkling of paper. I personally don't love that sound, so I'm just going to try to limit it as much as possible. I also will kind of stop trying to not have fingerprints. That is me. I'm going to lean into that being my brand. And we are just going to go with it. So I will be using a Kakimori brass nib dip pen to do the swatches of the 3 inks. And then I have 3 TWSBI Go pens, one in fine, one in medium, and one in stub. I also have a jar of water and a white t-shirt to dry off my instruments after I rinse them. So the first ink that I'm going to start with in this green ink exploration is Van Diemen's. It's the Tassie Seasons line, and this one is from summer and called Tiger Snake. So I got a sample of this ink and really loved it, so I bought a bottle. Just look at that cap. Beautiful. And like I said, this is going to be the outlier for the 3, but when I looked at kind of the green family that I wanted to swatch in, I had 2 that were really strong contenders, and then this one was just slightly out of that family. I think it's slightly yellow compared to the other 2, but I do think it's still worth comparing. There is my first fingerprint. Maybe a little bit of a second. And these swatches are not meant to be even, equal, similar at all. It's just me moving the nib across the page. I will be using the fine nib TWSBI Go and writing the brand name of the inks. So this is, like I said, Van Diemen's. Trying to find where to place my hands. Handwriting is small today. And this, I'm going to write the name of this ink. Now, I gave a lot of information about what line this is, the season. I am just going to write Tiger Snake. And then with the stub nib, I do some uppercase and lowercase letters. I am not very well versed in writing with a stub nib. I feel like there's probably a right way to hold it on the page, and I just have not taken the time to explore that. So this is the first of these green inks, Tiger Snake. All right, second, I am swatching because this one does not have shimmer, so that's a little clue that the next one does. So that's kind of the order that I was electing to go in. This is a sample that I received from a viewer, and this is a Robert Oster and Endless Pens collaboration. It's always like a game of Operation, putting the nib in a sample vial. Oh, that's smooth. You may notice I do turn the handle of the Kakimori brass nib as I'm swatching, just to try to get a little evenness. I actually really love these sections where it skips or misses, but my intention is to have a swatch more like this. Oh, here I am capping it, and I should not be. All right, so let's bring my Inkapat closer. And using this fine nib, oh, definitely picked up some right there. So this is Robert Oster and Endless Pens. This one is called, yes, just wanted to confirm. I thought I remembered it, but then second guessed. It's called Tea Time. And here's our stub nib to do our letters. Beautiful. So you can see this one is quite a bit more yellow than the second green, because and now I can officially say I was going for this olivey green color. And then the third one is a shimmer. It's a chameleon shimmer, which you can see it looks green and then it looks pink. There's a lot of character to this ink. I'm trying not to agitate it too much so it's not super bubbly at the top, but there will still be some bubbles. And I will not be re-agitating this. So there might be some variability in the amount of shimmer as the shimmer will continue to settle as the bottle sits. But there might be some uniformity in these swatches with just a little bit of a more shimmer heavy on the first one. All right, so using the fine nib, this is from the Ink Vent. It may have been from 2022. I could be very wrong in that. I did not receive or get this Ink Vent. So this is Diamine. In my experience, Diamine is a pretty, I'm going to say neutral ink brand. It's not too lubricated. It's generally not under lubricated. The shimmer inks seem to perform pretty well. And then I guess price point wise, in terms of inks and milliliters per bottle, it's a pretty decent price. I want to say this size bottle goes for, I don't know, maybe $12. 11 is sticking out in my brain, but I'm worried that I'm misquoting it. So, and if you order from the Diamine website, I want to say it's every 5 bottles, you get a free 10 mils kind of sample, like a larger sample. And if you happen to have the Pelikan white tortoiseshell model, it is pretty close to a perfect match with Olive Swirl. It's a beautiful, beautiful pairing. Okay, so if I hadn't considered the shimmer piece with this swatching, let me just zoom in a little bit. I probably would have had Tiger Snake, then Olive Swirl, and then Tea Time. So going at the top, starting with Tiger Snake, you have this really beautiful golden olive green color, and the higher saturated areas are definitely darker. You can see a little bit right here at the bottom and a little bit up here at the top. And then you've got these golden places that really pop out. It's a beautiful ink. The reason that I bought a whole bottle after using a sample is it just was really fun to write with some of the shading properties that it does. And there are parts where it looks very, very light and other parts where it looks very, very dark. For example, if you look here at the IE versus the T in Tiger, and even the nib size between the fine and the medium, it does give the picture of or the story of two different inks, which is really nice. Moving or then looking at across the 3 papers, near where the thumbprint is and around that, it does lighten up pretty significantly on the Cosmo Air light paper. It tends to be, or to my eye, it looks a little bit more green on the bank paper. And then the Tomoe River is kind of a nice mix of the two, which is really lovely. I am more used to it on Tomoe River paper than on any other paper, which is the case for most inks that I use because I primarily write on Tomoe River paper. Moving on to Robert Oster and Endless Pens Tea Time. So, and I think I've said this pretty often recently, but it looks like a different ink on the Cosmo Air Light paper. It is a lighter color. The way that the shading kind of plays out right here in the corner, you almost see a little hint of a pink coming through. Which you can actually on the bank paper, you also get that same bit of pink. It's actually a little bit more prominent, but it's a different shade of pink on the bank paper. You're also seeing it pool a little bit different, which could just be the way that the paper is sitting that you might be getting that difference. But the base color where you're not getting the shading is from my eye, and everything I say is from my eye. Everyone's eye might be different. How it's coming across on the video might even be different. But it does look like a different shade of green. It is a little more golden on the bank paper than it is on the Tomoe River paper, and you are getting those itty bitty pops, those very subtle pops of pink, a little bit more than Cosmo Air Light, but definitely less than bank paper, which is really interesting, and that's why I like doing this video. Looking at the writing sample, you definitely have some shading going on in the writing sample. And when using the medium nib TWSBI, you're getting that little pop of pink in the lettering, which is really, really lovely to see. And again, probably because of the curve of the page, and it could even be that there was some residual water in the nib from when I rinsed it. But looking at the T versus the E, it's again like a different ink. You have a much lighter, yellower green here, and then here it's darker, almost a army green darkness to it. Now then, Olive Swirl. I think Olive Swirl is just absolutely gorgeous. This is an ink that actually my husband picked out for me for Christmas. I probably would have bought it anyway, but it was such a lovely gift. Um, so and I do say this in most of my 3 inks videos, I pick the inks by looking through this Wearingeul color swatch book. And so actually here's my page flags from when I planned it out. But I look at the swatch here, and that's how I pick which inks I'm going to use. Now this paper is, I don't even know, it it doesn't give information on the back about the type of paper that it is, but there are times where it's definitely a swing and a miss. It will look like they're in the same color family in this swatch book, but then when I swatch them out on these papers, it looks very different. So this is kind of an example where I thought that Tiger Snake was going to be way out of left field, but swatching it all out, it is actually really similar to Olive Swirl. And like I said, Olive Swirl would have been perfect to put between these two because that would have been a really nice progression. So looking at the 3 different papers, again, Cosmo Air Light, it's a different ink. That is a much softer olive green versus it's a little bit more yellow on the bank paper and even on the Tomoe River paper. But it's a more muted olive green. The area where it's pooled and saturated is just stunning. Absolutely stunning. I love this right here. That is everything for me in an ink. That's how I want them all to behave. I love it so much. You do get some of that on the bank paper here. You've got this ring here where it is a little bit more saturated, and as I've said, the way that the page is shaped, it is likely a little more on this side because of the kind of bulkiness of this side of the page. But it's absolutely beautiful. The Tomoe River is surprisingly muted with this ink. It's not as full of character as it is on the Cosmo Air Light and the bank paper. So, and then let me just give this a little movement so you can see the shimmer there. You definitely have that concentration of shimmer here on the Cosmo Air Light and here on the bank paper. And then it's relatively evenly distributed, but definitely lighter on the Tomoe River. That's likely has nothing to do with the type of paper. It probably has to do with the fact that that was the 3rd place that I swatched. I would imagine glitter is a little heavier than the ink itself, so it probably gets pulled down the nib a little bit quicker than the ink. So that is my 3 inks Thursday, number 25, a quarter of the way to 100. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Please give this video a like to let me know that you appreciate this content. Feel free to share it. Feel free to comment. Feel free to let me know your thoughts. I love it all. And I will see you in the next one.